this, as it says on the syllabus, submit one of your annotated sources. What that looks like is one annotated source would be this here. Okay, so it's not a lot, but it means you need to find a source or have a topic, find a source, and then write these sentences. Again, this part here is where the summary, evaluation, and connection comes into play. If you still have questions about that's all right, because tomorrow's video will be all about summarizing sources, evaluating them, and connecting them. All right, but for this video, we're going to jump into research and where you can go to look up appropriate things for your topics. So I actually just finished, like I mentioned, I'm doing my MFA in creative writing here, and I just finished for one of my literature classes a kind of qualitative research paper about perceptions of solitary confinement in TV and film, and I have the paper here. As you can see in this chart, I did my own survey. I sent out this question. It was just 9 questions. What do you think of when you hear the term solitary confinement or its equivalents? So this is another kind of topic. You don't need to have a topic that is directly correlated to dystopian stuff. You can think outside the box. If you're interested in like prison studies or film studies or whatever, then go ahead and ask me about it, and we can come up with a topic that's going to be interesting enough for you to study it for 4 weeks. So I just emailed my Facebook friends and the WVU listserv for the English department, and this is what I came up with. Anyway, and I did it over Prison Break and Oz, if you're familiar with those shows. So Prison Break's currently on, and then Oz was on HBO, and its run has ended. Okay, so for this, now you have your topic, a couple of places to go. I've created this academic research guide. It's not super in-depth, but I'm going to show you in this video a couple of these options, so you're not just going to Google and getting sources that are either not credible or not fact-checked or not peer-reviewed, because again, this is an academic research paper. This is not exclusive to this field. In other disciplines and other fields, you'll have to do similar types of research, so I'm trying to prepare you for those types of research, in addition to helping you become a better writer. So WVU Library has a lot of databases that you can search into. We're going to go to a generalized search in just a second, but I'm just going to run through this list, and then I'll go probably to each one as long as we have enough time. JSTOR, they do more humanities-based stuff. It's typically like a collective of librarian registered sources. They're peer-reviewed scholarly articles. One thing to watch out for with JSTOR, however, is you need to avoid something when it says reviews, because that's just a review, obviously, of like a book, movie, whatever, and you don't want to be using that as one of your primary or one of your secondary sources. Project Muse is very much like JSTOR. JSTOR has a wider girth of sources. Project Muse is even more geared toward the humanities, including theater, film study, stuff like that. Google Scholar is more generalized, but oftentimes stuff trickles into Google Scholar that is not as peer-reviewed. The MLA International Bibliography is probably the top of its tier. It should really be here in front. I don't know why I didn't put it there, sorry. Credo is an encyclopedic entry source. So if you need maybe a definition of like, what do people say is an apocalypse, or what do people say is a natural disaster? What counts as X, essentially. You can go here and look up scholarly sources to provide you a definition, rather than going to like WebMD, or if you're looking at something medically inclined, or Webster's Dictionary, or encyclopedia.com, something like that. This is kind of the academic response to that, in addition to the Oxford English Dictionary. And then, of course, Google. I don't need to talk about that. You guys are pros. So a couple of things here. We're going to talk about source integration in the next video, in terms of how do you direct quote, how do you summarize, how do you paraphrase, what do you need to put in text citations, etc. All right, and this is all for MLA style citation. So for the first one, let's just go to the library home pages. So you go to databases, and again, this is lib.wvu.edu. Go to the databases, and I'm just going to type in solitary confinement, because again, that's what I did my, dumb, sorry, you have to type in an actual database first. I got ahead of myself. So academic search complete is what we want. Even teachers can flub up from time to time. All right, academic search complete, so go ahead and hit that. And I always keep this open because we'll be using this search bar a little bit later in the video. And if you are at home, as I'm assuming most of you are, and not on campus, you have to type in your username and password so you have free access to the databases. The library pays for all of these databases, so I'm not sure where the funding comes from for that. I know there have been a lot of cuts recently, but we do have several that are still quality databases. So EBSCOhost is maybe something you're familiar with, but this is a really good, and it should say academic search complete here. This is a really good overall general search. So let's type in solitary confinement, and this is, again, this kind of broadest topic that I would go with. So if I'm looking at here, you can see there are 888 responses. Over here, you can type in your dates. So you want something more recent. You know, I don't care what people are saying about solitary confinement in 1944 because I'm not writing a history paper. I'm writing a paper about today's perceptions and beliefs. So I'm going to just go back maybe 10 years and click peer reviewed. So hopefully everything is up to date now. Sometimes it takes a little while to update everything. So we knocked it down a little bit, but still kind of a depressing 634 articles written about solitary confinement. That means my topic is too broad. I need to narrow it down. So what you can do here is if you put something in quotation marks, it's telling the search engine to search the phrase solitary confinement. So you're not just looking at the word solitary, and you're not just looking at the word confinement. So it knocked it down a little bit more, but that's still far too many entries to, there we go, we're getting peer reviewed now, far too many to get to. So peer review knocked it down to 136. That's still too many. So if you type in something like this, if you type in the word and between two phrases, it's going to say this article needs to have the words solitary confinement, the phrase, and whatever I'm going to put in here. So I'm just going to put in prison break and see what happens. Because again, I looked at perceptions of solitary confinement in terms of prison break. All right, so it says no entries yielded. This might happen. So we go back to the drawing board, and what I would type in here is something like, I was studying prison break and I was studying Oz. So I'll put HBO's Oz. The reason why I'm putting HBO's Oz as a phrase is because when I searched it before, the Wizard of Oz came up a lot. So I have to know the network. So again, you need to know a little bit about your topic from perhaps a simple Google search at first, and then you can go into the field. So I actually read this article. I used it in my paper. If you want to get access to it, you can go here, linked full text. If for some reason there is not this option over here, linked full text or plum matrix or whatever, just shoot me an email because I can help guide you through how to download those more tricky sources. Additionally, the library on their homepage, there's a little chat that pops up here during their hours of operation, and you can just again, whenever they're open. I'm doing this video pretty late, so it's not open right now, but you can just type in your question here, say, hey, I'm trying to find this article. Do I need to enter library loan it? And they will do a lot of the research work for you. So please do take advantage of how much work that they will do for you. All right, so the first thing I would do here is I would download this. I would put save file. I would save it to my desktop for the purposes of the next 4 weeks. And then after the next 6 weeks after you have taken this class, delete it. But yes, save it to your desktop so you don't have to go through all of these steps again. Another thing is I would save this link as well. So you would just copy it and maybe open up a Word document to paste your links, because as you'll notice here, the URLs are provided in the MLA 8th edition. So to save you a lot of backtracking, which I didn't realize when I was doing my own paper that I would have to go backtrack, if you have a DOI, which this article does have a DOI here, we'll talk about all this later, then you'll put the DOI. But just to be safe and not to do extra work, just save the URL. All right, so that is the Academic Search Complete. This is the database I would recommend most for most of your topics. Let's go on to, so JSTOR and Project Muse are going to be very similar. They have pretty much the same search engines, all of that good stuff. So I'm going to skip both of these. The MLA International Bibliography is almost exactly a replica of Academic Search Complete, but again, it's a little bit more peer-reviewed, a little bit more scholarly than the things that will pop up here. So these three are pretty similar. Google Scholar, and I always get to Google Scholar by just simply Googling Google Scholar. If there's an easier way, I'm not aware of it, but so I've already done the search, obviously, on my own computer. We'll just put solitary confinement for now. All right, so here we have 39,200 results. So a lot of these things over here will help you get rid of some of these results. You can see here that the PDFs you will be able to access immediately, so I would go more toward these PDFs. However, something like this is a Google book, so you probably don't have time to read a Google book. The PDFs are going to be shortened documents in most cases. The titles will help you with this. Psychiatric effects of solitary confinement. I wasn't really looking into how solitary confinement affected people mentally, just how it was depicted, how it affected the characters of the show. So again, I would need to wean this down with better search terms. I could do the show itself. So you guys can bombard me with emails. Please put it in your discussion posts if you have questions like what should I search or whatever. That's what I'm here for. Please let me know. Another thing to point out, if you're in the medical field, PubMed is a beautiful source to find excellent journals and things to help support your understanding of your topic. These are a little bit more in depth, but if it's your field and you're interested in it, then I would say it's worth the time. Other than that, we are again going to talk about what you do with these sources after you have found them. But for right now, it's 5 to 7, like I said earlier, and do your best. So your homework for tomorrow is to find at least one and cite it as the best you can. We're going to talk about this and we're going to practice this. So again, just start practicing on your own and then write this paragraph here. And we're going to peer review it and then we'll move on to more research and annotated bib stuff. All right, let me know if you have questions.